The question arrived in my inbox 3 years ago from someone who had just lost everything. Divorce finalized, savings depleted, credit cards maxed, bank account showing a balance that wouldn't cover next month's rent. She asked me directly, is it actually possible to become a millionaire when you're starting from literally nothing? My response surprised her. I told her that starting from zero might actually be her greatest advantage. She thought I was being patronizing. I wasn't. I was being honest about something that most financial advice gets completely backwards. The mythology around wealth building assumes you need money to make money. That capital creates capital, that those starting with nothing face insurmountable disadvantages. That mythology protects the egos of people who inherited advantages and never had to develop the capabilities that true wealth building requires. The reality is more interesting and more empowering for anyone willing to hear it. 3 years later, that woman crossed the $1 million net worth threshold. Not through lottery luck, not through inheritance, through systematic application of principles that work regardless of starting point. Today, I'm sharing the exact framework she followed. The 12-month structure that transforms financial position from zero to a trajectory that reaches 7 figures. Not theory, not motivation without method. A practical roadmap that has worked repeatedly for people who committed to following it. The title of this video will trigger skepticism in some viewers. Good, skepticism protects against nonsense. But I'm asking you to hold that skepticism in check long enough to understand what I'm actually proposing. I'm not claiming you'll have $1 million in your account 12 months from now. That would require either extraordinary luck or deception on my part. What I'm claiming is more meaningful. You can establish within 12 months the financial foundation, skill base, mindset patterns, and investment trajectory that leads to millionaire status with mathematical certainty if maintained. The difference matters. Quick money schemes promise outcomes without process. What I'm offering is process that produces outcomes. The outcomes require time beyond 12 months to fully materialize, but the process that guarantees those outcomes can be established completely within 1 year. Let me show you how this actually works. Starting from nothing creates advantages that people with existing resources don't possess. When you have nothing to lose, you can take risks that others cannot. The person with a comfortable salary and modest savings has something to protect. That protection instinct makes them conservative. They avoid moves that might threaten what they've accumulated. You, starting from zero, face no such constraint. The worst-case scenario of any venture is returning to zero, which is where you already are. The downside is limited, the upside is unlimited. This asymmetry favors bold action. Starting from nothing also means you haven't developed the bad habits that comfortable people accumulate. You haven't locked yourself into lifestyle expenses that consume your income. You haven't committed to payments that absorb your surplus. You're a blank slate financially, which means you can design your financial life intentionally, rather than inheriting patterns that don't serve you. The mindset shift from fear to opportunity changes everything about how you engage with money. Fear-based financial thinking focuses on protection, avoiding loss, maintaining what exists. This thinking makes sense for those with substantial assets to protect. It makes no sense for someone with nothing. Opportunity-based thinking focuses on growth, identifying possibilities, taking calculated risks. This thinking matches your actual situation. You have everything to gain and nothing meaningful to lose. Making the shift isn't about positive thinking or visualization or other psychological gimmicks. It's about accurate assessment of your real situation. You genuinely do have less to lose than others. That's not spin, that's reality. Acting in alignment with reality produces better outcomes than acting against it. The woman who emailed me initially experienced her situation as catastrophe. Everything lost, nothing remaining. Devastating. When she reframed the same facts as opportunity, her behavior changed. She took chances she never would have taken with a comfortable salary to protect. She invested time in skill development that employed people feel too busy to pursue. She built income streams that someone protecting a stable job would consider too risky. Her zero starting point wasn't despite her success. It was instrumental to it. The biggest obstacle you face isn't lack of money. It's lack of structured approach. Money problems seem like resource problems. If only you had more money, everything would be fine. This framing is seductive because it places responsibility outside yourself. The universe didn't provide adequate resources. What can you do? But observe people over time and you'll notice something interesting. Income increases rarely solve money problems. People who earned more continued struggling. Their expenses expanded to match their income. Their financial stress remained constant despite higher numbers flowing through their accounts. The missing element wasn't more money, it was structure, a systematic approach to directing whatever money exists toward outcomes that matter. Without structure, you wing it. You make decisions based on feelings, circumstances, and whatever seems urgent today. You spend what you have because it's there. You save what's left over, which is usually nothing. You hope things improve without taking actions that would ensure improvement. With structure, you make decisions based on strategy. You direct resources according to priorities you've established in advance. You create surplus intentionally rather than hoping it appears. You ensure improvement through actions rather than wishing it through hope. The same income produces completely different outcomes depending on whether structure exists. A month-by-month roadmap ensures measurable progress that unstructured approaches cannot produce. General intentions don't work. Wanting to be better with money accomplishes nothing. Planning to save more accomplishes nothing. Hoping to invest someday accomplishes nothing. Specific commitments within defined timeframes produce results. By the end of this month, I will accomplish this specific thing. By the end of next month, I will accomplish this next specific thing. The specificity creates accountability. The timeframe creates urgency. I'll share the exact 12-month structure shortly. But first, you need to understand the foundation that makes any structure actually work. Tracking key financial metrics provides the visibility that enables control. Most people cannot answer basic questions about their own finances. What exactly do you earn monthly after taxes? What exactly do you spend broken down by category? What do you own that has value? What do you owe to creditors? These questions should have instant answers. They usually don't. People have vague impressions rather than precise numbers. They feel like they're doing okay or feel like they're struggling without data confirming either impression. This vagueness prevents control. You cannot manage what you cannot see. You cannot improve what you cannot measure. The fog of imprecise financial awareness perpetuates whatever patterns currently exist, because you can't identify what specifically needs to change. Creating clarity requires tracking. Income from all sources, expenses in all categories, assets and their current values, liabilities and their current balances. The first number that matters is your surplus, income minus expenses, the money left over after all spending. This surplus funds everything else: debt elimination, emergency savings, investment, future wealth. If your surplus is zero or negative, no other financial strategy matters. You cannot invest what doesn't exist. You cannot build wealth while spending everything or more than everything you earn. Creating surplus becomes the first priority. Either income increases or expenses decrease or both. Until surplus exists, nothing else is possible. The second number that matters is your net worth. Assets minus liabilities. What you own minus what you owe. This number represents your actual financial position. Income matters less than most people believe. High income with high spending produces no wealth. Modest income with controlled spending produces wealth over time. Net worth, not income, determines financial freedom. Building net worth requires either acquiring assets, eliminating liabilities, or both. Every financial decision either improves or worsens this number. Awareness of this creates better decisions automatically. Habitually monitoring these numbers transforms relationship with money. Weekly review of spending, monthly calculation of net worth. The discipline of looking creates changes in behavior that no amount of financial advice alone can produce. Reprogramming your mindset for wealth requires deliberate exposure to new inputs. Your current financial situation reflects accumulated past decisions. Those decisions emerge from your habits, beliefs, and skills at the time. The habits, beliefs, and skills emerge from what you were exposed to during your development. If you grew up around financial struggle, you absorb beliefs and habits consistent with struggle. If you were exposed to pessimism about money, you developed pessimistic money beliefs. If you learned skills that produce low income, you earn low income. These patterns feel like unchangeable reality. They're not. They're programming that can be reprogrammed through deliberate exposure to different inputs. Wealth-positive knowledge exists in books, courses, podcasts, videos, and the minds of people who have built wealth. Exposing yourself to this knowledge consistently changes what you believe is possible, what behaviors seem normal, and what skills you develop. Read books about money, not one book. Continuous reading over months and years. The accumulated exposure changes your mental patterns in ways that any single book cannot. Find mentors or role models who have achieved what you want. Study how they think and behave. The patterns that seem mysterious from the outside become comprehensible through exposure. Simultaneously, reduce negative influences. People who complain about money without taking action to improve it. Social media that promotes consumption and comparison. Advice from people who haven't achieved what you want to achieve. This isn't about positive thinking, it's about input management. What you expose your mind to shapes what your mind produces. Deliberate control of exposure creates deliberate results. The woman I mentioned consumed financial education voraciously during her first months. Books while commuting, podcasts while exercising, videos during lunch. She saturated her consciousness with new patterns until the old patterns lost their grip. Short-term focused sprints generate quick wins that build momentum. Long-term goals motivate intellectually but not emotionally. The payoff is distant, the sacrifice is present. Human psychology struggles with this mismatch. Short-term challenges generate immediate wins that create emotional momentum. A 10-day spending freeze, a 2-week side income challenge, brief intense efforts with immediate measurable results. These sprints accomplish multiple purposes simultaneously. They generate actual results. A spending freeze immediately creates surplus that wouldn't otherwise exist. A side income challenge generates money that wouldn't otherwise appear. The results are small but real. They build confidence. Completing a challenge proves capability you didn't know you had. If you can freeze spending for 10 days, you can exercise more control than you believed possible. The proof creates expanded self-image. They reset habits. Intensive focus on new behavior patterns interrupts automatic routines. After 10 days without certain spending, the habit of that spending weakens. After 2 weeks of focused income generation, the habit of generating income strengthens. They generate momentum. Success creates appetite for more success. One completed challenge leads naturally to another. The wins accumulate into transformation. Consider implementing a 10-day spending freeze early in your journey. No non-essential purchases for 10 days, only absolute necessities. Track exactly what you save compared to typical spending. The number might surprise you. Multiple days of examining every potential purchase reveals how much spending happens automatically without real decision. The awareness persists beyond the sprint, permanently reducing unconscious expenditure. Identifying and monetizing valuable skills creates the income that funds everything else. Surplus requires either reducing expenses or increasing income. Expense reduction has limits. You cannot reduce spending below certain minimums. Income increase has no ceiling. The upside is unlimited. Skill monetization provides the most reliable path to income increase for someone starting from zero. You have time to exchange for money. The question is how much money that time commands. Low skill time commands low wages. High skill time commands premium rates. The difference in hourly value between these extremes can be 10 times or more. Your task is identifying which skill you can develop that commands premium rates, then dedicating focused time to developing and selling that skill. Skills divide into categories. Technical skills involve doing something that requires expertise: coding, writing, design, photography, analysis, video production. These skills produce tangible outputs that others value. Soft skills involve human interaction that produces results: sales, persuasion, leadership, communication, negotiation. These skills enable outcomes that technical skills alone cannot produce. The most valuable skill combinations pair technical and soft capabilities. The coder who can also sell commands more than the coder who cannot. The writer who understands persuasion produces more valuable copy than the writer who only knows grammar. Combining skills creates unique offerings that command premium rates. Your goal in the early months is identifying your highest value skill potential and dedicating focused hours to development. Not dabbling in many things, not spreading attention across possibilities. Concentrated focus on one skill that can command substantial income. This focus might require difficult choices. Time spent developing skills cannot be spent on entertainment. Energy directed toward capability building cannot be directed toward relaxation. The sacrifice is real. The payoff justifies the sacrifice. Every dollar per hour increase in your rate multiplies across all hours worked. The investment in skill development pays returns for years, not months. Let me share the structured timeline that organizes all these elements into a 12-month transformation. Months 1 and 2 focus on foundation building. Clarify your complete financial situation. Calculate exact income, expenses, assets, and liabilities. Determine your current surplus and net worth with precision. During these same months, begin the mindset reprogramming. Identify books, podcasts, courses, and mentors that will provide new financial input. Establish daily exposure habits that will continue throughout the year. Complete your first short-term sprint, a spending freeze or income challenge that generates immediate results and builds momentum. Identify the skill you will develop for income increase. Make the selection based on intersection of your existing capabilities, market demand, and income potential. By the end of month 2, you should have complete clarity on your financial position, established learning habits, completed at least one successful sprint, and selected your focus skill. Months 3 through 5 focus on income increase through skill development and monetization. Dedicate significant daily time to skill development, courses, practice, production. Whatever your skill requires for mastery, invest the hours. Begin monetizing before you feel ready. Imposter syndrome will suggest you need more preparation. Ignore it. Offer your skill at rates appropriate for your current level. Get paid for developing capability rather than developing capability before getting paid. Increase rates as competence improves. What you charge in month 3 should be lower than what you charge in month 5. The improvement in skill justifies increased pricing. Don't wait for external validation to raise rates. Raise them as your output quality improves. Track income carefully during this period. The goal is significant increase from your starting point. If income isn't growing, something in your approach needs adjustment. Either the skill selection, the development effort, or the monetization strategy requires change. By the end of month 5, income should be noticeably higher than when you started. The surplus created by this income increase provides resources for subsequent phases. Months 6 through 10 focus on financial stabilization. Build emergency savings to cover at least 1 month of expenses, then 2 months, then 3. The security this creates reduces stress and enables better decision-making. Without emergency reserves, every setback becomes crisis. With reserves, setbacks become inconveniences. Eliminate high-interest debt during this period. Credit card balances, personal loans with significant rates. The interest on this debt represents guaranteed loss. Eliminating it provides guaranteed return equal to the interest rate you are paying. Stabilize cash flow so that surplus is consistent and predictable. Irregular income creates irregular savings, creates irregular progress. Building consistency requires either regular income sources or variable income managed to produce regular surplus. If your employer offers retirement matching, begin capturing it during this period. Employer matches represent free money that you forfeit by not participating. The return is immediate and guaranteed. By the end of month 10, you should have meaningful emergency savings, high-interest debt eliminated or substantially reduced, stable positive cash flow, and any available employer matching being captured. Month 11 focuses on strategic self-investment. The skills that got you to month 11 can be expanded. Courses, tools, certifications, mentorship. Investment in yourself produces returns through increased earning capacity. Consider what learning would most increase your income potential. What capability, if developed, would let you command substantially higher rates? What tools would increase your productivity and therefore your output value? Invest a portion of accumulated surplus in these capability enhancements. The investment should be strategic, not random courses that seem interesting. Deliberate development of capabilities that increase earning power. This investment might feel uncomfortable after months of building savings. You're spending money you worked hard to accumulate, but this spending is investment. The return through increased earning exceeds the cost if the selection is strategic. Month 12 initiates market investment. With emergency fund established, debt eliminated, cash flow stable, and earning capacity enhanced, you're positioned to begin building investment portfolio. Start with broad market index funds that provide diversified exposure without requiring stock selection expertise. The S&P 500 or total market funds capture overall economic growth with minimal complexity. Set up automatic contributions that occur with each income receipt. Remove the decision from each paycheck. The automation ensures consistency that willpower alone cannot maintain. The amounts at this stage might seem small compared to what serious investors discuss. That's fine. The habit matters more than the amount initially. Establishing the behavior of regular investment creates foundation for compounding that will eventually produce substantial wealth. The combination of all 12 months creates transformation that no single month could produce. You enter the year with financial vagueness, struggling mindset, limited skills, and no investment activity. You exit the year with financial clarity, wealth-oriented thinking, monetizable skills generating increased income, emergency reserves providing security, debt eliminated, and investment portfolio begun. This transformation creates trajectory. The person you become through this year continues improving in subsequent years. Skills keep developing, income keeps increasing, investments keep compounding. Prioritizing financial goals strategically ensures each step enables the next. The order I've outlined isn't arbitrary. Each phase depends on previous phases having been completed. Emergency savings must precede aggressive investing, because without reserves, you'll be forced to sell investments during emergencies, potentially at losses. High-interest debt must be eliminated before investing because the guaranteed return from debt elimination exceeds expected returns from most investments. Employer matching must be captured early because it's free money with immediate returns that no other investment matches. Market investing comes last because it requires stable surplus and psychological readiness that earlier phases develop. Attempting to skip steps undermines the structure. Investing before emergency savings means selling at inopportune times when emergencies hit. Investing before debt elimination means earning less on investments than you're paying in interest. The order exists for reasons. Following the sequence creates stability that random financial activity never achieves. Each completed step provides foundation for subsequent steps. The building is orderly rather than chaotic. Compounding operates on both skills and money, creating exponential rather than linear growth. Small investments in skill development lead to income increases that seem disproportionate. 20 hours learning a new capability might increase hourly rate by 30%. That increased rate applies to thousands of hours of future work. The return on those 20 hours vastly exceeds the return on 20 hours of additional work at the previous rate. Incremental investments in markets compound into meaningful wealth over years. The amount invested in month 12 seems trivial, but that amount, grown through decades of compounding, becomes substantial. Time transforms modest regular investment into wealth that seems impossible from the starting point. The combination of growing skills and growing investments creates multiplicative effects. Higher skills produce more income enables more investment compounds faster. Each element reinforces the others. This is how someone starting from zero achieves millionaire status, not through single windfalls or lucky breaks, through systematic development of capabilities that produce income, that funds investments that compound over time. The math works. The behavior produces the math. Behavioral and psychological dimensions matter as much as numbers and strategies. Knowing what to do and actually doing it are different things. Information without implementation produces nothing. The gap between knowledge and action defeats most people attempting financial transformation. Motivation determines whether you'll start. Confidence determines whether you'll persist when difficulty arrives. Habits determine whether the right actions become automatic rather than requiring continuous willpower. Building these psychological elements happens through the process itself, not before it. You develop motivation by experiencing small wins. You build confidence by completing challenges you weren't sure you could complete. You establish habits through repetition over months. Celebrating small wins reinforces continued effort. The sprint you completed deserves recognition. The first investment contribution deserves acknowledgement. The debt payoff deserves celebration. These moments of recognition create positive association with financial progress. Resetting behavior when you slip prevents temporary setbacks from becoming permanent reversals. Missing 1 week of investment contribution doesn't matter if you resume the following week. Having one high-spending month doesn't matter if you return to discipline the following month. The trajectory matters more than any individual point. The psychological journey parallels the financial journey. You become a different person through the process. more disciplined, more confident, more capable. The person who completes month 12 isn't the person who began month 1. The transformation is internal as much as external. The long-term vision extends beyond 12 months to the life these 12 months make possible. 1 year of disciplined, structured action transforms your life, not in motivational poster ways, in measurable, verifiable, undeniable ways. Your financial position, your earning capability, your investment trajectory, your psychological relationship with money. Each step builds foundation for bigger financial moves in subsequent years. The skills developed continue compounding. The investment portfolio continues growing. The habits established continue operating. The person you've become continues improving. Year 2 builds on year 1. Year 3 builds on year 2. The progress accelerates because the foundation expands. The woman who emailed me 3 years ago didn't reach millionaire status in 12 months. She reached it in 3 years. But the 12 months established everything that made the subsequent years successful. Without that year of foundation building, the following years wouldn't have produced what they produced. Starting now, regardless of your situation, puts you ahead of those waiting for the right time. The right time never arrives for those who wait for it. Conditions never align perfectly. Circumstances never become ideal. The perfect moment to begin doesn't exist. What exists is now, the current moment with its current imperfections. Starting in imperfect conditions puts you months ahead of people who will start when you're finishing your foundation building phase. The gap between those who start now and those who wait grows every month. The person who begins in January has 12 months of progress by December. The person who waits for January has nothing. Your circumstances right now are adequate for beginning. Whatever limitations exist, the first steps remain possible. Whatever obstacles appear, the initial actions can be taken. The zero that might seem like disadvantage becomes your advantage. Nothing to lose means freedom to act. Clean slate means ability to design intentionally. Fresh start means patterns that serve rather than constrain. Write in the comments where you are in your financial journey right now. 0 starting point, already begun but stalled, making progress but seeking acceleration. Sometimes articulating your position clarifies your next step. Share this with someone who believes their starting point makes wealth impossible. The framework works regardless of where someone begins. The person who needs to hear this might be one conversation away from transformation. The 12 months ahead will pass regardless of what you do with them. This time next year, you'll have aged another year. The question is whether you'll have transformed in that year or merely continued. Transformation requires action, not understanding, not agreement, action. The framework I've shared works. It has worked repeatedly for people who implemented it. It will work for you if you implement it. Implementation means starting month 1 activities now, today, not tomorrow, not when conditions improve, now. Calculate your exact financial position. Begin the mindset reprogramming. Plan your first sprint. Identify your focus skill. These actions take the first month. The actions compound from there. 12 months from now, you could be positioned for inevitable millionaire status, with the trajectory established and the behaviors habituated. Or 12 months from now, you could be exactly where you are today, having thought about change without implementing it. The difference is action. Starting from 0 isn't your disadvantage. Failure to start is. Begin today.